Hi, this is Jake with the team here at Projul. This video will give an overview of our invoicing functionality. Making sure you get paid promptly should be a simple task when managing a construction company. With Projul's streamlined invoicing capabilities, creating and sending invoices becomes effortless. This saves you valuable time by ensuring prompt invoicing without the hassle of prolonged administrative tasks. Let's first look at a quick example before discussing the specific features of invoicing. To start, I'll navigate to my projects page and find a project that's ready to be invoiced. In this case, we'll do this kitchen remodel job. By clicking the 9-square menu on the top right and pressing Add Invoice, a new invoice will be created that's already linked to this project. There are several different ways to invoice, which we'll talk about later in this video. In this example, I'll invoice as specific line items from my estimate. I can switch my invoice from being invoiced as a dollar amount or a percentage. In this case, I'll do a percentage, and then I can select which sections from my estimate I would like to invoice. In this case, we'll do 100% of my demolition and removal and 50% of electrical and plumbing. Once I'm satisfied with my invoice, I can scroll down to the bottom, mark this as ready to send and lock this invoice. And then I can quickly send this invoice off to my customer using a pre-saved templated email. And now viewing this from the customer's point of view, I can see that invoice has popped up in my email's inbox. I can select that invoice and click on the invoice link. From here, I'll be able to see how much I owe, as well as some financial information on the bottom as to how much I'll owe in the future on this project. I can easily and securely pay with either a credit card or an ACH payment directly from this page. And now moving on to the how-to of invoicing, there are 3 places invoices can be created within Projul. The first is what was shown in our example earlier. I can find this by clicking either the Projects page on the center of the screen or the Projects tab on the left sidebar. From here, I can find a project that's ready to be invoiced. And on the top right of that project, there will be a 9-square menu. After clicking on that, you'll see an Add Invoice button. This will create a new invoice that's already linked to the correct customer and project. The next place to create an invoice is from the Estimates page, which can be found by either clicking the Estimates tile in the center of the screen or the Estimates tab on the left sidebar. From here, I'll find the estimate that's associated with the project I want to invoice. In this case, we have Hazel's kitchen remodel. On a brand new estimate that doesn't have any invoices created for it, there will be an Add Invoice for this estimate button visible on this preview tile. I can also, for any other estimate, click into the estimate, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and on the far bottom right side, I'll see a Create Invoice from this estimate button. And lastly, I can create an invoice directly from the Invoices page itself. To access this page, you can click on the Invoices tile in the center of your screen or the Invoices tab on the left sidebar. From here, I'll go to the top right of the page and press Add Invoice. Unlike the other 2 options, creating an invoice through this route will require me to select a client and a project to associate this with. Once we have an invoice created, there are 2 main ways to invoice this job. The first being through one invoice line. This will take all the line items from my estimate that I've created and apply this invoice payment across all of those. To do this, I can click the Edit pencil on this one line to change the title of that line item. In this case, we'll do a 25% deposit. And as was shown earlier in the video, I can choose this invoice as a percentage of estimate to switch between invoicing from a dollar amount to a percentage. In this case, I'll switch it to a percentage, and using this large box in the center, I can put in my amount for this job, in this case, a 25% deposit. If I want this to be invoiced as a dollar amount, I can always switch that back and choose a specific dollar amount, such as $10,000. The second option I have for invoicing is to invoice my estimate items individually. By clicking the Or Invoice the Estimate Items Individually button in the center of the screen, it will bring up all the items from my estimate. This invoice will match the display settings that I've set in my estimate. By that I mean if my estimate is marked as itemized, my invoice will also be itemized, and this will bring in every line item that was created in my estimate. In this case, my estimate was not itemized and was section-based. So on my invoice here, you can see I have all the sections from my estimate, not necessarily specific line items. Once I've pulled this page up, I'll see the boxes on the right side of this page, allowing me to put in specific amounts for each item from my estimate. In this case, I'll do $500 from my demolition and removal, $2,000 from flooring, and $1,000 from lighting. I also still have the ability to choose between dollar amount and percentage of invoicing. So if I wanted to switch that to a percentage to make it easy to quickly select 50% or 20% of certain items, I can also do that as well. If I'd like to bring in the entire remaining balance for either my entire invoice or just a specific item, these blue arrows that are shown on the screen will allow me to do so. This arrow up top is what I would click if I'd like to bring in the whole remaining balance for the rest of the project. This is extremely helpful when creating a final invoice or when I'm wanting to fully invoice for certain items from my estimate. Moving a little bit lower, if my estimate included a discount, I'll be able to see that discount right here on the bottom right and quickly add that to an invoice that I've created. If I need to create a discount that was not from my estimate and is only specific to this invoice, I can press the Add Discount button here and select either from a list of pre-existing discounts I've created, or I can press the New Discount button to create a new discount. From here I can select whether this is either a percentage or a dollar amount discount. In this case, I could do a 20% military discount. I can choose to either apply my discount before or after tax using this toggle, and then press Save Discount to both save that discount for later use and apply it to this current invoice. And if I scroll down even further, I'll see three options: Introduction, Contract Details, and Attach Photos and Files. The introduction and contract details share the same functionality. They're open text boxes that have no character limit. They'll also have some styling options on the bottom if I need to bold, underline, highlight, put in bullet points, anything like that. You'll also see two buttons here. The first is to import the introduction from estimate. This will pull whatever I put as the introduction in my estimate for this project and add it to this invoice. The second button you'll see is to import an introduction from a template that I've already saved in the past. If I click on this, I'll go ahead and import, for example, a bathroom remodel template. If I'd like to save either an introduction or contract details section for future use as a template, all I have to do is type out what I'd like that template to be. In this case, I've typed out a kitchen remodel. I can go ahead and open that up, and on the far right, you'll see the Save as Template button. Here I can give this a title and press OK. And now I have that saved as a template that can be brought in for future use. The Attach Photos and Files button will allow me to bring in any photos or files that have already been attached to this project. I can easily do that by selecting these checkboxes up on the top left. Or if I need to add in a new photo or file that has not been associated to this project before, I can press the Upload a Photo button on the bottom left. Once I've done that, I can press the Select Photos button on the bottom right, and those will get added in to this invoice. Now on the bottom, I can see the Justify payment options. Justify is a third-party integration we have with Projul that allows your clients to pay their invoices directly from the link that you send them with either a credit card or ACH payment. Here on this invoice, I can choose whether I'm accepting credit cards or accepting ACHs on this invoice. These can be set as defaults in your company settings, but if I need to adjust these on this specific invoice, I can do that here. If you'd like to set up Justify, go ahead and click your initials on the bottom left, press Integrations, and then press Set Up Justify right here. From there, just follow the steps that are given, and you'll be able to quickly set up your Justify account. Now that we've finished with the main functionality of invoicing, go ahead and touch on the smaller features that are found around the invoicing page. Up on the top, you'll see your project financial box, which will give you just a brief overview of how much you've invoiced versus how much the project is worth. By expanding this, I can see all the documents associated with this project, like my estimate and all my invoices. I can click on those to be navigated to that document. Next, up on the top left, I'll have my company logo. This will get brought in by default based on whatever your estimate logo was, but if I need to change that on this specific invoice, I can do that as well. I'll also have the company, client, and project display info, which will also get added in by default, but if I need to make any changes, I can do that using those three buttons there. Over on the far right, I'll have some customer contact information, as well as the comment channel button, allowing me to see all my project comments while I'm creating my invoice so I don't have to go back and forth between those pages. Next, on the top right, I'll have a 3-dot menu that will have various options. I can create another invoice for this project, edit my client, estimate, and project information. And this next button is to import the name and descriptions of all line items from my estimate. This will bring in for each line item that was created in your estimate, the name of that item and the description that was created into this invoice that can be displayed to the customer. I can do this on a per line item basis by clicking into it and pressing that same button on the bottom. This will bring in, for this section, every line item and the description that was put into my estimate, whereas that button on the 3 dots will do that action for this entire invoice. And next on this 3-dot menu, I can mark my invoice as paid. This will just create for today's date a blank payment that has the full amount of this invoice. I can also delete this invoice if I need to using that button there. Next, I can edit my invoice title and number. These will be automatically generated when I create the invoice, but if I need to change this for some reason, I can click on this button and change both the title and the number of the invoice right here. Next, I have a toggle to set the invoice date when the invoice is sent. So if I have to work on this invoice for a while, just whenever I send it, it will set the date that it was sent to that date. Next, I have the due date terms. I can mark this as due on receipt, as well as some custom options of 15 days after it was sent, 30 days, 45, or if I need to set a custom due date, I can click on this button here and select on a calendar when I want this invoice to be due. Next, we have the button we've talked about a few times to change this from percentage to a dollar amount invoicing. And next, moving a little lower, we have the invoice tax settings. Your tax rate will be automatically brought across from whatever your estimate tax rate was. But if for some reason I need to make any adjustments to this, I can do so here. And now moving to the very bottom of the invoice, I have a few options here. First is to add another invoice for this project. Next, I can preview this as a client if I want to see what this would look like for them before sending it off. Next, I have the print preview button. This will let me see what my invoice would look like if it were printed. And then on this same page on the top right, I have the option to print this or to save it as a PDF. And next, once I'm satisfied with my invoice, I can go ahead and change the status to ready to send. Once I've done that, you'll see 2 more options appear on the bottom of the screen. First, I can mark this invoice as sent if I've already sent this off to my client. And next, I can actually send this invoice. If I click on the Send Invoice button, I'll see a few options such as copying the link, previewing as a client, and some display settings. And then I'll also have the option to message this invoice to the client using the Projul customer portal, or I can email this invoice to my client. If I press email, a pre-saved templated email will be brought in that can be adjusted in my company settings. And I can also adjust this on a per invoice basis if I need to make any edits. Once I'm ready, I can press Send Email on the bottom right. And this will change my invoice status to waiting for payment. And now that my invoice has been sent, you'll see a Record Payment button appear on the bottom right of the screen. If my customer pays with Justify, the payment processor, a payment will be automatically added to this invoice and the status will be changed to paid. But if I need to manually record a payment, I can do so using this button. It will allow me to select a payment type. In this case, I'll select a check. I can put in a reference number or a check number if I need, and then the amount to pay will automatically pop up with the full amount of the invoice, but if I need to do a partial payment, I can adjust that here, as well as adjust the payment date. Once that's done, I can apply my payment, and this invoice will be marked as paid. Also, once I've sent an invoice to my client, I can see when they viewed this invoice in the customer portal. By clicking on this button, I can see both a date and time when this invoice was viewed. If you have any questions about invoicing within Projul, go ahead and give us a call at 844-394-8541, or you can email us at support@projul.com. Thank you.